Hi, we are live. We're here to talk about some of the things I've been posting recently, particularly about shelter in place. If you have questions about what does shelter in place mean, please comment, because you're not the only one who has those questions. So we know now. By the way, Elizabeth will be here in just a few minutes. She's settling the kids. She's making them lunch. We had a late start with getting lunch going, and they've been outside playing. And she did a little meditation with them over the frozen water on the dock. So that was a really good thing. I'm glad she did that. But it put us a little behind. So here we are, and she's not quite ready. But shelter in place, and what does it mean? Social distancing, people heard the idea of, gathering less than 50. Well, they thought that was party time. And then the idea was changed to, no, gather with less than 10. And people still thought that was party time. But here's the problem. One individual, and they have 10 people over here, and 10 people over here, 10 people over here, and 10 people over here. Maybe they have 10 groups of 10. That's 100 people that this one individual is exposed to. And then they come into this group of 10. So this person actually represents the accumulated experience of these 100 people, and they come over here. Now this person has the accumulated experience of all of this 100 people, and so they go to the next group of 10. And what that means is we don't contain the virus. We have a strategy. The strategy we know works. We know it works because it worked in China. It is working in Italy. It worked even better in South Korea. It worked even better still in Singapore. Singapore has actually done the best job in the world at containing this virus. And they did it through shelter in place. So shelter in place, and it's now. Now is the time for shelter in place. Now is not the time to panic. Now is the time to be prepared and to work efficiently, the way we've been talking about. Shelter in place is not a panic mode. Shelter in place is protecting your neighbors. That's all it is. It's being neighborly. It's doing what Americans always do, which is rise to the occasion. There are lots of nasty things that happen every day in life. In fact, car accidents are going to take more lives. The flu over a 10-year period will take more lives. Certainly the Black Plague of the 1400s took more lives. But we have a difference this time. These lives are going to be taken in 1 to 2 months. And when these lives are taken, and as these people get sicker and sicker and sicker, they're going to absolutely overwhelm our system. And we're going to become a third world country from the point of view of healthcare, because there will be no ventilators, there will be no ICU beds, there will be no hospital beds. So we need to flatten the curve. It's just that simple. And it's not scary, it's not hard, it's not difficult. We all know what to do. What do? We shelter in place. And what does that mean? That means whatever group of people you live with, you cut yourself off. You just isolate. So your home unit isolates. Your home unit isolates, and you protect people around you. So if you're leaving your home, the smart thing to do is to shower and change your clothes, and then leave the home to do only essential business. Now, yesterday I was on a walk with my dog, because you can still go outside. It's okay to go outside. But a runner was coming towards me, somebody I knew actually, and I decided to just step off the trail and go onto a little side trail that was it's a snowmobile trail. And as my friend ran by, she said, "Thank you, see you, Tom." That's all it takes. I was about 20 feet from her or more. So anyway, we came back, and then what do you do when you get home? Shower and change your clothes. You want to think of it like a clean room, right? And I don't mean you got to vacuum every little thing every little minute. What I mean by that is you leave, You shower and change your clothes to protect the outside world in case there's virus in your home. When you get home, you shower and change to protect the people inside your home. And what do you go out for? Well, you can go out for that walk, certainly. You can go out for essential things like food. It's better if you order online and then go pick it up in the parking lot. That way you're really only exposed to one person. And if you really wanted to, you could say, just leave the cart, I'll load the car, and that person can walk away. You can put your groceries in the back of your car, put the cart wherever it needs to go. And if you really wanted to, you could wipe the handle of, just wipe the handle of the cart before you pushed it. Or you could use a rag that you're planning to just put in a bag and launder when you get home. But, try not to touch stuff. There's a meme going around now where a health official is saying, don't touch your face in public. And then as she's about to turn the page of her speech, she goes and turns the page, right? That's how unconscious we are about touching our face. When I was in high school, they put infrared dye on our hands at the beginning of a 40-minute period or however long classes were back then. And then at the end of the period, they shined black lights on us, and everybody had ink everywhere. They were scratching their crotches and scratching their chests and rubbing their face and rubbing their hair. They were just glowing. They were glowing under this light. So we touch ourselves all the time. The virus doesn't attack you because you got touched by an outsider. The virus attacks you because you touch yourself, and then you end up on your mucous membrane, in your nose, in your eye. So, it's not the outside world that's going to infect you. You're going to infect you. You might get sneezed on and then touch yourself here, wherever, and then right there, right there, right there. That's what's going to happen. So try to become aware of that. There's a Zen practice. Zazen meditation is you sit absolutely still. And if your nose itches, it's part of your meditation. You just become aware that your nose itches. Nobody died from an itchy nose. So it feels like you're going to die from an itchy nose, but nobody died from an itchy nose. In fact, my nose itches right there, right now. In Zen, you wouldn't even be allowed to do this. You just have to sit and take it. So, shelter in place. Shower out. That's ideal. Now, do you have to do that? No, especially if you're still in a low-risk community. There's no coronavirus in our community. By the way, that's the problem. Right now is the time. Before there is coronavirus in your community, it's time to shelter in place. So it feels ridiculous. It feels like an overreaction. It feels stupid. And there are many people who are behaving as if it's stupid. Oh, let's see. Jody, hi. Mandy, hi. Oh, look, Fran, how are you? You came back after I insulted you. Thank you. I was kidding. I love you. Karen, hi. I wanted to see if there were any questions. So, shelter in place. And what does it mean? I wrote something, it's on the blog below. I wrote a little blurb about, shelter in place. Why are we doing this? We're doing this for our neighbors. Because the truth is, you're very unlikely to get seriously ill. You personally are very unlikely. There's an 80% chance that you personally will not get seriously ill. But what will happen is you will be an asymptomatic carrier and contagion for several days before you get sick. And even on that day when you're not, I don't feel quite right, I'm kind of off, maybe I'm not feeling good, I wonder if I'm getting sick, or maybe I don't even wonder if I'm getting sick, I'm wondering if I just didn't sleep well last night. You're really contagious that day. So, the problem is the overall rate of death in this is someplace between 0.6 and 3%, depending on where you are and who you talk to and which numbers you believe and blah, 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 right? If you look at Singapore, it's even lower than 0.6%. But in some places, it's been 3%. you could even argue that in some areas it's been much higher than that. But the problem is that's the average over the whole population. The people who are at greatest risk for this, the people who you will infect as an asymptomatic carrier, those are your grandparents. Those are people who smoke. Those are people who have heart disease. Those are people who have lung disease, other medical conditions. They will die, 80%. 80-year-olds, the death rate is 80%. 60 plus, it's not 80%, but it's higher. And if you have some serious problems like serious asthma or COPD or some other chronic lung disease, it's very high. So now is the time, shelter in place. Not panic, not freak out. We don't have to do that. We just have to plan. Those who fail to plan, right? People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And unfortunately, so far, we have failed to plan. So now's the time. And I started a hashtag the other day, hashtag just another superhero saving humanity, and it was a picture of my dogs, right? I'd really love to see that meme catch on. Just another superhero saving humanity, and show us a picture of what you're doing. Just start flooding that hashtag because it's us. It's you and me. They're going to save the world. It really is. The government's not going to do it. A miracle vaccine is going to be too late. It'll save us next year or the year after from the same pandemic coming around the globe again. That'll be great. But it's not going to save us this year. It's you and it's me. We're going to save the world. And we're going to do it by social isolation. And we're not doing it because we're afraid, and we're cowards, and we're doing it because we're willing to make this sacrifice for our community. Look, I haven't had an income in quite a long time. I was just launching my online program, which, I expect that many sales or maybe less, right? Because it's an expensive online health program. Well, that's not what people are focused on right now. Now, because I have an urge to help, we're going to probably end up opening a virtual clinic to help people with, customized nutritional support for their immune system and things like that. But, doing functional medicine, which is what I've always done. But, some people have really bad income problems. And what we hope will happen, let's see, Andrea, hi. And Mandy, hi. What we hope will happen is that our government will see the wisdom to not just bail out the mega corporations. More than half of people in America are employed by small business. So I hope they bail out Main Street this time instead of Wall Street, right? But we're human. We don't learn lessons very well. So that's probably not what's going to happen, but we can hope. And hopefully they'll extend unemployment and they'll hopefully do a lot of things. But that's sort of a secondary concern. This isn't a true existential crisis. This is a true, real humanitarian emergency. It's not a tsunami, some big dramatic thing that's so obvious. It's not a war that's so obvious. It's a little tiny thing you can't even see. And it's spreading invisibly. And what we need to do is shelter in place. And again, the goal is not to scare the crap out of you. The goal is to just be frank about it and just do it. Take this time. This is like a retreat. We have the opportunity right now to be on retreat. I just mentioned that Elizabeth was out on the dock doing meditation with her 3 children, ages 16 to 6. They're going to do a daily meditation. I hope I'm invited to be a part of it in the future. I do my own meditative practice. I just took the dogs out into the woods and it was so icy, it was like seriously dangerous. The last thing I want to do is end up in the hospital right now with a broken hip, so I'm not doing that again anytime soon. But this is an opportunity to slow down, smell the roses, enjoy your family. A lot of tension right now because we're all cooped up. But that, that also is helpful. What's the tension about and how can we think more carefully? And I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to me. How can I think more carefully? Because it's hard. Save the hero one hero at a time. Save the world one hero at a time. Absolutely. Hi, Jessica. And that was from Karen. Yeah, so I really hope we can make this hashtag go. I don't even know how hashtags work, but I'm just sort of starting to do it. Hashtag just another superhero saving humanity. And then a picture of whatever it is you're doing, you know. Maybe you're watching reruns of I Love Lucy. That can be the superhero activity. Maybe you're playing Monopoly with your family. Maybe you're playing, one of those weird looking things. You bounce a ball and grab them, jacks. Maybe you're playing jacks with your young kid. Maybe you're playing hopscotch. Just another superhero. Hashtag just another superhero saving humanity. I think it's really important. So back to what does it mean? You've isolated your family unit. You wash out of your house. You wash back into your house. If there isn't virus in your community right now, you can be at kind of medium level security where maybe you leave your house without washing, but when you come back in, you just wash your hands well. If there is COVID in your community, I would recommend showering and changing your clothes on the way out of the house, and then when you get into the house, clothing goes immediately into a hamper, a closed hamper preferably, and you step into the shower. And then you put on new clothes and you're ready to interact with people in your house. So, that's shelter in place. And then, by the way, I'm going to put a link to a New York Times article about this topic right underneath this when we're done. It's a very good article. The problem is the countries that have been the most successful at doing this are autocratic. China did an incredible job. They had teams of people in hazmat suits that when they found out somebody was sick, they would go get them, and then they would quarantine that house. And a box would be put on the stoop of that house every day that had food in it, and those people were not allowed to come out. And if another person in that house got sick, they came out and got them, and they segregated them away. They isolated them. And they did that early on in Singapore. Now, there have been, I think, just a few deaths in Singapore because they have been so vigilant about finding an infected person, isolating them, finding all of that person's contacts, and quarantining them. So remember, isolation is for the sick person, quarantine is for the not sick people who are exposed. And by doing that, they just keep putting up what essentially are fire breaks. They put concentric fire breaks around this thing. This person is sick, all the people that they've been associated with get quarantined. Now, the beauty of it is, there's a small town in Italy where they were super aggressive. What they did is this person is sick, they isolated them, everybody that they had contact with, they tested. And then they tested him a second time 10 days later. In fact, what they ended up doing is they ended up testing all 3,000 people who lived in this town on day one, and 10 days later, all 3,000 people that lived in this town again. And the first time they tested everybody in town, they found a number of people who were positive. They isolated them and quarantined their contacts. Then they tested a second time. They found a few more people who were positive. They isolated them and quarantined their contacts, and they hadn't had a new case since. That's how it can be done. We don't even have tests yet. Now, my colleagues with the Institute for Functional Medicine have been investigating this, and there are a few innovative labs that are just now coming out with testing. They're not commercially available yet. They don't have FDA approval yet, but they're on the verge. Probably by next week, we'll have several labs that can do testing. So that will be awesome. So I think Elizabeth might be ready to join us. Is that true?
Thinking about it, I thought you were sounding pretty good, so I could always sit one out. But then I thought you probably needed help reading.
Yeah, I've been trying to read these things. So, you smell good.
Do I?
Yeah, she's got like patchouli on or something.
Bingo, you're right.
It smells really good. Anyway, that's how it's done. And for us, because we don't have that autocratic infrastructure like these other countries, we have to do it ourselves. So what does that mean? Well, we've talked about it several times. You need to designate a sick room. In our house, the master bedroom is designated as a sick room because there's a nice big bed in case there's more than one person that's sick. There's a big chair in case a third person is sick. There's a bathroom right here, and there's a porch so they can go outside, get a little fresh air, and not have to go through another area. And we can, it's easy access to get food in here and whatever else. So if somebody in your house gets sick, you need to isolate them, and you need to quarantine yourselves away from them. You probably need to contact friends. You need to have some friend, a reciprocal agreement. Listen, if our home gets sick, you need to bring us groceries. If your home gets sick, we will bring you groceries. We will go and pick up your groceries. You go online, order your stuff. We will go pick it up for you, kind of thing. If you make those reciprocal agreements, then you're prepared. And that's what we're talking about. Be prepared. Don't be panicked. Be prepared. We talked a little bit about meditation and stuff. You want to talk a little bit about your meditation that you did with the kids? Yeah. I think that's super important.
It's a beautiful day here, so the sun is shining, and actually when you're sitting in the sun, it's quite warm. So we sat down on the dock, and I just had them sit with
over the ice, by the way.
Sat down on the dock. They had their feet on the ice, kind of connecting to the water, and we just started with some breath work, and I told them to close their eyes, and I counted the breaths for them, 5 in, hold it, 5 out, and we did that for about 3 or 4 minutes. And then I just started at their feet, and just really working on relaxing those muscles and just picturing fluidity and movement throughout your body as you relax everything. And we started at our feet, and we worked all the way up to the top of our heads, and ended in a nice, comforting bath of light. And yeah, by the end, they were all relaxed and got up and started running around outside and playing. So then I made them something to eat quick, and so their bellies would be full and they wouldn't be popping in here saying, "Mom, I'm hungry."
Yep.
Yeah, so.
And UV light kills the virus. So, if you're worried about things outside, we don't think that this virus, there's evidence that the virus can linger in the air for a while, but not long term, and it's not the common thing. Usually when you sneeze or cough, it's a fairly large droplet of snot that gravity grabs onto and drops to the ground by about 6 feet. So, if nobody's been out sneezing and coughing and snorting on things in your yard is not a dangerous place. It's okay to go outside. Plus, it's not going to live very long in the sunshine. Where it lives longer is in shadows in very specific places. So don't worry about going outside. It's really not dangerous to be outside. It's, again, you're more likely to give it yourself. Somebody, you shake hands with somebody, or they sneeze and you get some yucky stuff on you, and then you go like this and you stick it in your nose or in your mouth or in your eye. So again, try to become more and more aware. And it's not about beating yourself up. It's like, oh, I'm scratching my eye right now. I'm not supposed to do that. Oh, my nose itches right now. I shouldn't itch it. I shouldn't scratch it. Just become aware. Start to become aware, because as you become aware of it, you'll be able to control it. The problem is we got our finger deep in our eye before we even know we are doing it. All right, it's time to shelter in place. I wrote about what that means earlier today. I'm going to post an article from the New York Times that talks about why this is important and how effective it is. It's very effective, by the way. And let's spread the word. I hope that all of you will write something about shelter in place, and maybe even link this New York Times article that I'm going to post to your post on your Facebook group, on your Twitter, on your yada yada, TikTok, whatever you like to use. because we need to get the word out. Now is the time. All right. Any other questions? Any comments? Again, it's not about panic. It's not about fear. It's about love of your neighbor. All right. We'll see you tomorrow. There's something coming up, I think, maybe. Yeah, let's see. If someone in the house is sick, we confine them to a room. Do we then treat symptoms like a cold, Tylenol, Advil,
Mucinex, I bet it says. Salt water gargle. So much different advice being given out, it makes your head spin.
Yeah.
Also later read, do not take Advil.
Yeah. So there's some controversy about the Advil thing. The French Minister of Health came out and said don't take Advil because it looks like it might increase the severity of the illness. It might also be true that the people with severe illness were taking more Advil, right? It might be the egg that created the chicken rather than the chicken that created the egg, if that makes any sense to you. We don't know for sure, but here's what we do know. There's something called Reye syndrome, which happens in children who take aspirin or sometimes other anti-inflammatories, which rarely happens when you take Tylenol. In the face of uncertainty, it's probably safer to use Tylenol. There's some concerns about certain blood pressure medicines. If you go, there's a YouTube channel called MedCram, MEDCRAM, like cramming for a test, MedCram. He's a super smart critical care doctor who wrote extensive thing about blood pressure medicines and how they may or may not make it worse. And I think for me, the evidence falls on the side of probably the blood pressure medicines in question are actually very protective, not very protective, but somewhat protective. And yes, you treat them symptomatically, keep them so what's the treatment? Keep them hydrated, keep them isolated, have them cover their cough and sneeze and try to prevent their coughs and sneeze from going all over the bedding or whatever. So using tissues and putting those tissues immediately into a trash bin. If somebody is coming into the room to bring them food or water, wear a mask. The person who's sick, wear a mask. The person who's not sick shouldn't be touching anything unnecessarily. And if they get progressively ill and get short of breath, or if they become hypertensive, because people with COVID-19, the worst stage before collapse is they get high blood pressure. So they get high blood pressure, they get shortness of breath. That's the time to call, not go to, but call the clinic or the hospital, or if there is in your community a information phone number, go there and get information about what to do and where to go. So yeah, treat it basically like a cold, except with lots more hand washing and trying not to touch stuff. Anything else? Oh, a few things. Yep, these people are just signing off. Well, you're welcome. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Glad to see you guys here. I said in my little post earlier that if we do this right, it's going to feel like a monumental waste of time because few people will get sick. If we do it wrong, it's going to look like the funerals of your loved ones. So let's not do it wrong. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.